What do you think about waiting until the end of residency to buy an individual policy if that program qualifies for a GSI policy that you'll be able to buy, even if you develop some health condition during residency? What do you think about waiting in that situation rather than buying an individual policy at the beginning of residency?
Those are two questions, and I'll try to answer both of them in that order. So first off, GSI policies are available to a very limited number of institutions. So not every institution has a GSI offer. Now, most of your GSI offers have a cap on the amount of coverage you can get. So the cap could be anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000. Now, you've got to ask yourself a question, depending on the specialty that you're in, what is your income earning capacity? If your income earning capacity is $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, then that GSI policy is just not going to cut it. Number two, GSI policies are typically priced with unisex pricing. Now, unisex pricing does favor female applicants. However, it does not favor male applicants as much, because what a unisex policy does is, so if you look at gender distinct rates for males versus females, female rates for disability insurance are about 30% higher than male rates because of the higher morbidity experience. So a unisex policy lowers the female rate but increases the male rate. So if you've got a male applicant relying entirely on a GSI policy, issue number one is you're going to end up paying a rate that is higher than you normally would have. Number two, you're going to end up capping yourself at a $5,000, $10,000 policy, which simply will not be enough for you as an attending. Now, what I tell a lot of young residents and fellows is when you're doing your planning, you need to keep your attending needs in mind, because you're an attending for 30 years, you're a resident for 3 to 5 years. So it's really, your planning should be geared more towards your attending needs, not towards your residency needs. As far as waiting to apply, one of the biggest problems that I see in waiting to apply is the clock is ticking, right? So as a resident, you're working crazy hours, 70, 80, 90 hours a week. You're not eating properly, you're not sleeping properly, you're not exercising. So the odds are against you that you may develop some sort of a chronic diagnosis. And if that happens, that could prevent you from, you could end up with a modification, you could end up with a surcharge, or you could end up with a straight up decline. I'll give you a perfect example. I have a resident who's about to graduate in June, and he approached me now to set up his coverage. Well, it so happens that in January, when he did his blood test, his A1C was 5.9. Well, insurance company considers that to be pre-diabetic, and it's an outright decline. So that is the kind of risk you don't want to take by waiting. If budgeting is a concern, buy a smaller policy, get a graded premium, but get something. GSI policies tend to do very well for folks that cannot qualify for a traditional policy. Look, frankly, if I came across a GSI quote and it was more competitive than a private policy quote, I would encourage that applicant to get the GSI first and then get the supplemental coverage from me. I'd never discourage them from getting a GSI policy if it was in their best interest. But if it's a male applicant who is about to pay unisex rates and in comparison can get a better deal on a private policy and can qualify for a private policy, then by all means, you should be entertaining a private policy versus a GSI plan.
The hosts of the White Coat Investor podcast are not licensed accountants, attorneys, or financial advisors. This podcast is free entertainment and information only. It should not be considered professional or personalized financial advice. You should consult the appropriate professional for specific advice relating to your situation.